The following podcast is an enticing media production.
Where the Nell have you been? Join us for conversation about life, business, and everything in between. Welcome to What the Nell, where we've got stories to tell. Here's your host, Nell Tice.
All right, you guys, welcome back to another brand new episode of the What the Nell podcast with yours truly, Nell Tice. I am so excited for another solo episode today, but this solo episode is a little bit different considering I am talking about what I've learned in recording over 100 podcast episodes now. It is kind of crazy to think about this, and it's been a journey. It's been an awesome journey. I've been podcasting for years now, and I love it. I think it's something that is absolutely essential, especially for entrepreneurs, business owners, people that delve into storytelling somehow, one way or another, in whatever they're doing, and just content creation. So it's necessary and a beautiful way to share a story and get your voice heard and face, because, I'm all about the video. So to this day, now, of course, this is episode 99, and I am talking about recording in 100 episodes because if you don't know, if you haven't heard, I have an upcoming series with my friend Steve Trott called Don't Follow Me, and we are already well into recording those episodes. So I have now personally recorded well over 100 episodes, and I've learned a few things, and I'm going to share those things with you in hopes that maybe you're inspired to start your podcast, continue your podcast, pick it back up again, or wherever you are in your journey. I want you to know that this is a really cool thing to do, and I want you to know that it's important. Somebody out there needs to hear what you have to say. And I special shout out to Box 7 Media, who is an amazing place to go to produce your podcast. If you're not into doing all of the technical stuff yourself, Box 7 Media is also an amazing client of ours at enTICEingmedia, and I just want to shout them out because they are the authority in producing podcasts. So just an FYI. Now, all right. I kind of have a bit of a list, so I am going to get started, and there's a lot of things that I want to share. Some of them may be more important than others, but this list is in no particular order. So first thing I want to talk about is content evolution. So what that means is when I started this podcast, I had the intent of using it as basically a lead magnet and using it as part of the funnel. And as I got further along into doing this, I realized, you know what? I'm just not a lead funnel kind of gal. And, it's the intent behind it was to really connect and hope to connect to more clients and things like that. And that's all well and good. But when I started to focus more on that aspect, I started to lose the feeling of enjoyment and why I really liked podcasting to begin with. And then I thought, you know what? It doesn't need to be all about that. And if guests turn into clients and leads and things like that, that's great. That's just a bonus. But if I actually do this with the real intent behind it, because that's where my heart was, then I can have more fun with it. I can enjoy it, and maybe more people would pick up on that and listen. And I think that it's really a positive thing to know that when you start something, what you ultimately end up doing with it may not be the original intent. And that's okay. Things do evolve. And I'm really happy about the fact that I sort of stayed in the realm that I was meaning to stay in, which is pretty much entrepreneurship. I mean, the motto of the podcast is we discuss life, business, and everything in between. It all wraps into that. And I've never believed that you could completely leave your entire life at the door when you go to work. And because that if you're doing something that you love, that all wraps into it. So it's more authentic. And I know that's such a buzzword right now, but it really truly is. And I'm really happy to say that I've been able to stay in that same realm of where I intended to stay. But I think that the intent behind the result that I was looking for is what changed. So just be aware that evolving content, audiences, intentions, things like that will happen. And that will happen in anything that you do for a long period of time. So that is the first thing that I've learned over this journey. And one of the most, if not the most important things that I've learned is consistency. You can call me your consistency queen, because anything that I do, that I put out there, my intention is always to remain consistent with it. Does that mean that it comes with imposter syndrome and thinking all the time, probably 95% of the time, no one's listening to this, no one likes it, people like me less because they've heard more of me? And yeah, those things actually might be true. But the point is, you need to power through with consistency, because there is an audience for you. There is someone out there that always needs to hear your story. Even through the naysayers and the people that say, well, that's stupid, I don't know why you do that. What are you doing with your life? I've heard that many times from multiple people. So keep going. There is no success without consistency. Overnight success is like 0.000001% of the time. And the likelihood of you being in that 0.00001 is the chances are probably less. So keep staying consistent, keep putting the episodes out, keep creating the content and the ideas and doing all of the work that is required to do something like this, and you will see results. And what are those results? I don't know. That's where you got to figure out what your intent is. And I will tell you that leading up to 50 episodes is where I started to see a lot of people come to me to want a guest spot. That's where I started receiving a lot of requests. I got to tell you, I've been really, really happy about the fact that I've rarely had to reach out to people to be a guest on this podcast. And that's pretty cool. I get requests a lot from all over the world. And that means that people are seeing it. If people weren't seeing it, you wouldn't get those requests, right? So keep that in mind too. So like I said, that was probably close to hitting episode 50. Because you know what? Platforms and sources and people are watching. They're watching for you to be successful. They're watching you just to know what's going on. And they're watching you to fail. But people are watching either way. So yeah, right around episode 50 was when I started noticing that. And just recently, I would say probably at about between episode 75 and 80 is when I started getting inquiries about sponsorships. And this is a tough subject for a lot of podcasters, because there are platforms out there that will promise you that you can make money and monetize your podcast and, just by being here basically. And that's honestly just not the case. I know there are platforms that will set you up to be able to do that, but it's literally pennies on the dollar. And if you are expecting to make a living off of your podcast and you're not Joe Rogan, that's a pipe dream. It really is. I'm not saying it can't be done, but remember that percentage that we just talked about, that super, super small percentage, that's where that reality lies. So just know that. And the consistency is really the only thing that you can depend on to get you anywhere in sponsorships and partnerships and affiliates and things like that. That's truly where you're going to make a lot of your money from podcasting, if you make a lot of money. So keep going. You can get there. You'll get the inquiries and things like that. And there's no reason why, if you have a following, if you've got an awesome story, you've got this thing going, that you can't reach out to people either. Maybe there's a company out there that you love and that you need to remind them of why they want to work with you, what you have to offer them, because the worst that you can hear is no. And if a little no is setting you back and getting you down, you might need to grow some thicker skin, because this ain't easy, just an FYI. So consistency is key. One of the other things that I've really learned, and I don't know that saying I didn't expect it is the right thing to say, but guest dynamics is something that maybe I didn't expect to have to focus a lot on. Different guests, well, all of the guests that I've had have been amazing. And pro tip, there needs to be a vetting process. You need to have some sort of even just a form or some sort of meet and greet, some way to get to know a little bit about your guest, get a sense, be in the room with them, for lack of a better term, to get to know them, to see if they'll be a good fit for your podcast. Because there are people out there that are looking to, I don't know, destroy you. There are people that are looking to just get their opinions out there because they think they matter more than others. And there are people that are trying to push agendas. And yes, there are some people in this world that don't have best interests in mind, or their version of an interest is skewed and are using your audience to create some sort of a tactic to get them on a certain side of things. And I've heard of that happening, and in order to get past that, you really have to get to know somebody as much as you can before you let them on, because then you get into situations where you are thinking about not releasing the episode. Then the guest gets mad. You've wasted their time. They've wasted their time, and you don't want to get to that point. And there are ways to prevent that. So, if you like what you're hearing of anything that I'm having to say, or you want any sort of more explanation or anything, feel free to contact me. Send me a DM, email, anything like that. I'd be happy to explain. But you definitely have to have some sort of a process to do that. And then also realize that not every guest is the same. Some guests are fantastic at being a guest on a podcast and have done this hundreds of times and know what they're doing, know what to say. Not every other word is a filler word, like an yeah, so, and so, all of the things that we're all guilty of doing. I'm going to have to probably edit the what out of this podcast, because I catch myself doing those things all the time. But there are people that are so well trained in all of this that they make your life really easy, which is amazing. But you also need to know that most people aren't like that, and you're getting reality. So just be aware of that. And then there's also guests that don't have a lot to say or get straight to the point. There's not a lot of fluff. So you might have to push a little more. You might have to dig a little deeper and work with people or fill in the gaps. Some people are nervous. This is a human thing, right? Or at least in my head, it should be a human thing. We're not having all AI podcasts yet, are we? And I'm sure we are somewhere, somehow, but I prefer to stay in the human realm. And yeah, everybody's different. So are their podcasting techniques. So just realize that and be ready to step up to the plate and, take the episode by the horns and make it your own. Make it something that people want to hear, even if your guest isn't necessarily living up to the expectation that you had set. So that is something to definitely think about. And while we're on that subject, the other thing is that I've learned is don't script everything out. It doesn't do anybody any good to sound like a robot. I'll tell you, when I first started this podcast in 2022, I used to send the guest the questions that I was going to ask ahead of time. The problem is that doesn't leave a lot of leeway for you to change your mind or go with another question that seems fitting in the moment, because you know what happens during conversations, right? Things evolve, people have emotions, and things change in conversations, and there might be a better suited question to ask than the one that was originally planned. And that makes more sense. And nobody understands when you jump from one topic clear into another one without some sort of segue or transition. And it's harder to do that and feels very unnatural when you have to force it. So when you let the conversation take over, it becomes a much different episode. It becomes a much different effect on the listener because then they can resonate with it on a human level. So scripting was something that I thought would make life easier, but actually made it a little bit harder. Certainly you can have subjects that you want to touch on. I know when I'm in the heat of the moment, I forget about certain things that I want to ask, or I just have an outline. There's nothing wrong with that. And if there are things that the guest is not wanting to delve into, don't do that. Ask that question ahead of time. Make that a part of your form or your vetting process, your meet and greet, whatever that may be. Discuss those things ahead of time so that you can have a clear and concise conversation within the boundaries and the realms that you both are comfortable in. So that's super important. That right there then leads into be adaptable and try new things. That is definitely something that I've learned. And it's a little different from content evolution in the sense that this comes from more of a place of being willing to open up and open your mind to new ideas, new tactics, new ways of marketing, new ways of promotion, and new ways of interviewing and just changing things up a little bit. It's the openness. And like I've mentioned before with this new series, Don't Follow Me, a lot of podcasts don't do that. But there are some, of course. I got the idea when I was actually watching something on Netflix. Or no, it wasn't Netflix. It was HBO Max. And it was And Just Like That. That's what it was. The spinoff of Sex and the City, which, by the way, isn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. But anyway, that's a whole different episode. But I was watching And Just Like That, and I really liked what they did, where they dropped so many episodes for the release of it, and then they released an episode every single week after that for the season, which I thought, why are they doing that? Is there a thought? I'm sure there's thought process behind it, but that's pretty cool. I like that idea. Why couldn't you do that with a podcast? So that's where I got the idea to do that. And I'm sure I'm not reinventing the wheel here, but it's nice but it's new for the podcast. It's nice to change things up a little bit. So in an effort to celebrate episode 100 next week, when that series debuts, we will be dropping 3 episodes at once to get you going, and then releasing an episode every week after that. For the foreseeable future, we have a lot of ideas for the series, so I don't know exactly how many episodes there will be in it. But yeah, that's kind of the game plan for the moment. But it's fun to try that. And What the Nell also went on to YouTube this year. So that's new. Google Podcasts is going away, and they're going to solely focus on YouTube, which is awesome. So if you have a podcast and you're not on YouTube, well, you sure as hell should be. So what are you waiting for? Anyway, yeah, just be open-minded. Try new things. If something doesn't work, okay. So try another idea or go back to the way you were doing it. I don't know. Just keep it fresh and invigorating. Another thing that I have learned was to ask for feedback. And this will be a really good segue into the next topic, which maybe I should just combine them. It is asking for feedback, but also thinking about what your audience is like and what they're looking to hear. So there's a lot of back and forth with any sort of storytelling platform or idea going on about you should always create for you. And then the flip side is you should create for your audience. I think in a podcast, you have to do both. Number one, you need to create for you because you need to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, that comes through. Your voice and your face, video and audio are the best ways to get the real feel of someone without being there in person. And you need to listen to your audience, understand what direction they're going in, because your audience is evolving too, just like you. And understand the direction that they're going in, get the feedback, get what they want to hear and their suggestions, and take all of that and spin it into something that you want to do. So that way you both can be happy. And when everybody's happy, everybody wins. And that being said, you can't make everyone happy. Then you know what? You're just going to have to be okay with saying, turn off the podcast. Go listen elsewhere because maybe this isn't for you, and that's okay. There are plenty of people out there for you. So you don't have to win everyone over, and you will exhaust yourself and burn out trying to do so. So just there's whatever it's worth, there's that little nugget of wisdom. So I think that the next thing that I want to talk about is marketing and promotion. Obviously, social media plays probably the biggest role in any marketing promotional sector of anything that you do, right? I say that begrudgingly just because social media for me is not an area of expertise. It's also not an area that I want to be an expert in, and I don't intend to be. However, I know you need to use it, and you need to make it work for you. You have to absolutely promote your podcast on social media. You've got to have a Facebook group. You've got to have an Instagram page. You've got to have an X account or whatever. There are different platforms for different people and different types of podcasts too. So not every single platform is going to work for you. I happen to have a private Facebook group, unfortunately, because at the time I didn't know what I was doing for What the Nell. And if you're not in it, go ahead, join. But I am in the process of creating a public group. So we're going to have to migrate a little bit, which if you're a faithful listener, I'm hoping that you will come over to that realm. And of course, I'll communicate and let you guys know when all of that happens. But I also have an Instagram account for it. And you know, you just got to promote your episodes, and I cannot stress this enough. You cannot rely on your guest to promote the episode for you. I understand that you may want to utilize their audience to help get listeners. I get that. Trust me. And having a high profile guest isn't necessarily going to translate into hundreds of thousands of downloads, okay? So don't even expect that. Just don't expect it. And use your own platform to promote your own work. I gotta be honest, if you're not getting the numbers and you're not getting the views that you want to be seeing, it's because you are lacking somewhere. Trust me. I know the YouTube channel is new. I'm not getting the views on it that I really want to see yet. I know it's new, but I'm also not putting forth a ton of effort in it right now. That will change. And I understand that. I am focused a lot on the downloads because that's where my audience currently is. And I have to shift them over to YouTube, which some of that will happen naturally with Google Podcasts going away. But anyway, there's going to be a different tactic and a different strategy once all of that happens. And I'm looking forward to getting past a couple of things that I've got going on right now in other areas. And we'll focus on that eventually. And it's just like anything else in your business. Certain areas get certain attention for a certain period of time, and some things fall back. And that's just the evolution of everything that you're doing. But for the love of God, promote your podcast, please. All right. Now that I've gotten off my soapbox about that one, the last thing that I want to talk to you about that I've learned a lot, and this is last but certainly not least, I have become a better listener. I used to struggle when interviewing guests because I was constantly thinking ahead of where I wanted to go in the conversation, thinking about the next question, the next topic, the next this and that I wasn't in the moment. And not being in the moment led me to not completely listening and paying attention to what the guest was saying. And that hurt me because then I would get flustered, and then I'd have to like backtrack and kind of evaluate where we were going. And it was a mess. And you can hear that coming through in some of the very old episodes of this podcast. And still occasionally, we're all guilty of it. And it happens from time to time. But I have truly learned to listen to what the guest is saying and be more in the moment, ingest that information, because just like you, I am ingesting what the guest is having to say too. And it's still really important to me to get all of this knowledge and this content and consume all of this because it's important to everyone. So definitely make sure that you are listening and be less worried about what's coming up and be in the moment and let that conversation happen and flow naturally. Don't force it. It should really be like a natural, progressive relationship that you've formed. I mean, if you're in a sales situation with a lead or potential client, I mean, what's part of your process? You listen to what your client needs and you listen to them, right? You got to understand what they're looking for and not try to push them towards something they don't need. So it's kind of like that. Think about it in that sense. If you're a salesy type person, and it should just be natural. And being able to listen better has helped me immensely because I've had a lot of really amazing guests with a lot of really amazing things to say. And for that, I am very grateful. And I'm grateful that I've finally learned how to tune into that and get out of it what I need to, which is just a bonus of podcasting. So I don't want to take up any more of your time. Listening to me go on and spiel for like 28 minutes is a lot. So yeah, this is episode 99 and I kind of can't believe it. And it's crazy. I love it. I don't plan on stopping. You're never going to get rid of me. I'm going to be here for as long as humanly possible until something else comes along and requires my full attention, which would be some sort of a life change, I'm sure. But I really want to thank all of you for making all of this possible, because without listeners, without the downloads and the feedback and the engagement, none of it would happen. And it's pretty easy to fall off the wagon really quick when you're not seeing results that you want. You're not seeing the numbers. You see some days go by where there are people that don't listen at all. You see no views on a video. It's real easy to say, you know what? Maybe this isn't for me. Maybe people don't like what I have to say. Maybe I'm not doing this right and I should just quit. And if there is one thing that I've learned, it's that. Don't quit. Don't quit. Keep going. What's the difference if you're changing one life or 1,000 lives? So on that note, I'm going to leave you there and get excited because next week is the debut of Don't Follow Me, the exclusive What the Nell podcast series with Steve Trott. I'm really, really excited for that. And I hope you are too. And like I've said before, thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys mean the world to me. If you are interested in being a guest, please reach out. I'd love to talk to you. And yes, I will put you through a meet and greet. This has been an amazing journey, and I can't wait to continue it. Thank you all so much. Don't forget to subscribe on the YouTube channel, like the videos. Write a review for the podcast. If you're a listener, get on your favorite platform, review us, like us, subscribe, all of those things. That's how we grow. And I couldn't be more grateful for all of it and all of you. So thank you so much. And as always, I will catch you on the next one.
To learn more about how to tell your story, connect with Nell at enTICEingmedia.com. That's ENTICEING media.com. Thanks for listening to the What the Nell podcast.